channel as well.
I like the way when Roland is introducing something, he has
a subtle way of,
he punches subtly, but then he ends up delivering what he has to do.
Oh, okay.
With a straight face.
You're still doing midday today, midday live?
Yeah, I'll be on at 12.
Right.
Yeah.
Daniel Domelevo has been dominating the news, so I'm sure he's going to dominate New Day as well.
Yeah, and coincidentally today is his birthday, so
wow.
So he says it's a great birthday gift from the Supreme Court to him.
Absolutely.
In as much as he doesn't like what government did, he thinks that, well, he feels vindicated and is excited.
You mean what the president did or what government did?
What government? The president is the head of the executive, so clearly it's the president.
Yeah.
Because all the letters that came asking him to forcefully go on leave were from the office of the president, and if anybody wants to say anything, it is the head that takes the blame or the praise. So it is the president asking him to go on leave forcefully. That's what the Supreme Court has said. So I'm sure he'll be cutting the cake with a lot more excitement today.
Perhaps. Compensation?
That wasn't stated, and it's not clear whether or not they're going to be.
Well, he's entitled to a gratuity.
I would hope.
And then he says that he's been giving some part payments, etc. But he really doesn't know the computed amount. And that's what he says. And then I think yesterday, while he spoke to us, he was also speaking to other competitors as well, and did say that he wasn't in Ghana. So I think that it's the precedent that this ruling by the Supreme Court said that's quite important, AJ.
Quite important.
See, I think there are interesting arms and legs developing from this Auditor General story. I think the bit of concern is how there seem to be no sanctions or punishment as a result of that decision that was taken by the government or the presidency. However, it calls into action the need to ensure that this doesn't recur. Because, it ordinarily just means that a government in power can decide to circumvent the law to do whatever it is they want to do. Then they later come and say that, okay, so we apologize for what we've done. Or the Supreme Court now takes a decision. But the wrong that was committed during that period goes unpunished, and we all pretend as if it didn't happen. But it has happened, and it's actually a travesty, of our judicial system.
Because he honestly stood out as someone who was truly in the interest of Ghana. Yes. When people were going wrong, when he found issues with how monies were misappropriated, he asked for people to be surcharged.
Yes.
And it almost seemed as if finally someone was actually doing the job for the sake of Ghana.
Yeah.
And it's quite sad that he was unceremoniously asked to go on, and it almost seemed as if, and in subsequent Auditor General reports, it's almost as if he was the one that was able to uphold it the most, because after the COVID-19 expenditure one, we still haven't heard of any particular surcharges or any particular person getting some sort of sanction for misappropriating funds that were clearly stated out.
Yeah.
Well, even for the special audit that was done for COVID, we haven't had surcharges.
Exactly.
I think the last surcharge really was from him.
Yeah.
I remember he had a tango in court with Zoom Lion, or the main subsidiary of the Jospon Group, which of course I used to work with, because apparently they were drawing down from some accounts of the NHIA, as well as the Ministry of Health, and then some others. So, but ultimately they went to court, and that was resolved. But it's the power that enabled him to be able to do that. I'm talking about the Auditor General. That is inherent in the Constitution, for which he was able to use, irrespective of whose ox is God. And I think that he's an example of somebody who decides that I want to do the work, irrespective of what anybody will say. And I think that in the Fourth Republic, he's the only Auditor General who has been able to uphold that institution or office as one that is most independent. Yeah. And you could clearly see that the rest have just, last time I said kotod, so that's Instagram, they say katao. I don't like saying that because it's not very Ghanaian, of course. So it doesn't rhyme with the way we speak English, so katao. Well, so that is how it rhymes or syncs with the whole perspective about making sure that somebody upholds that duty as an Auditor General. And I'm hoping that that constitutional mandate that gives the president to take decisions, and for which has been criticized largely as being one that gives too much power, would be respected, but also will be used in discretion. Because, you see, I am not one of those who thinks that the Constitution needs to be wholesomely amended.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
Because if you have somebody who is very temperate in decision-making, can still use the office of the head of the executive or president and take decisions and not infringe or encroach in the various fields or areas of institutions that have been given that mandate by the Constitution. So, for example, we can have a president who will decide that I want the Public Services Commission to take a roll call or updated CVs of all senior managers of state institutions, but do it in such a way that it doesn't look like it is the presidency that is giving a certain directive. And it is a sign of taking a discretionary power. So you're taking a discretionary decision. It depends on how you take it. If you have a president who is arbitrary in decision-making, then that person then tends to abuse his power of office.
No.
But if you have a president who decides that I want to respect the various organs of the Constitution, respect the institutions that have been given the power by the Constitution, then that president will take decisions that will be temperate. You see, so that's why I don't think. So, for example, if we can have a president one day in this country who decide that I'm not going to appoint anybody related to me for which I wouldn't be criticized for being somebody who favors, is nepotistic, is doing tribal politics or ethnicism, etc., then you know that that president would have upheld all the tenets of the Constitution. Right. So that is my position. Yeah, it depends on who, because no matter the laws or the regulations that we ever promulgate or pass in Ghana, there will always be a way that you can abuse that office that you have.
No.
Which we have seen clearly play out in the Domelevo issue, because, you know, the first letter that came caught a lot of people by surprise, including Domelevo himself. He wrote back and said that, first of all, he does not believe that the power to ask him to go on leave falls within the remit of the president. And then the presidency writes back to him to say that, in fact, for this year's leave that you have not gone for, add it to the...
Exactly,
so
and proceed immediately.
They increase the number of days he's supposed to be out of office. And the foolhardiness of government, what Twewa strategy, do you get what that is?
Yeah,
positioning of the government is what has caught a lot of people by surprise, especially CSOs who thought that the government should be more reasonable and listen more than, take those kinds of arbitrary positions and nothing else. Many thought that John Mahama was a dead goat. But I think we've seen a more deader goat than in this administration than before. So clearly, it didn't even make regular common sense to force someone to go on leave. And the backstory actually is even interesting that when John Mahama appointed the Auditor General, the current president said that it was a good decision because they had seen the kind of work he had done and thought that he didn't want to even work because there had been a change in government so Mahama appointed him and left office, and then this new government comes in and he says, all right, it was Napo, we are told, in fact, Domelevo said this himself, that it was the current energy minister that met him and reasoned with him that, no, the president would want you to still work with us, especially to fight corruption. And the president, we know, has been propagating the mantra of fighting corruption, anti-corruption, So it was a big surprise of a U-turn when the government now says that you, in as much as or irrespective of the fact that you are fighting corruption clearly, so we are taking you out for someone else to come in, and was forced to go on leave. So at least, to cut a long story short, it's good that the Supreme Court has finally put its foot down. People are even accusing the Supreme Court of overly delaying, justice delayed is clearly justice denied. So what happens to all the expertise he could have deployed in ensuring that our audit service works full throttle? Unfortunately, he's out of the country. He's enjoying wherever it is that he's working at, and says that if even they ask him to come back, it will be difficult. He doesn't see himself working back, with the audit service. But then it's an unfortunate lesson learned the hard way,
Have we learned any lesson at all? So I think I particularly remember some of the little things that were done to frustrate him. And particularly you look at change of door locks. There were times he was out of the country,
He comes
came
back
back,
and everything's been changed.
and then his door locks. I mean, those were very petty things.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, what matters is even, and you are also talking about some of the serious ones, okay? Some of the mundane, subtle things that were done, very childish.
Passive-aggressive.
Passive-aggressive strategies that way. And I think that we're going to have a next government coming. Even if it is an MPP government, and it's led by Alan Tramantin's people or Baumia's people, they're not going to like somebody who was appointed by a Kufuor person.
Right.
Because of the precedent that we decided to set all the time. And if we say it is democracy that we want to undertake in this dispensation, are we doing it for the public good? Because and I have seen, I remember when I first did my internship in the year 2000, that election, I covered some of it. I saw Rollins forlornly, you see that his party had lost, Atta Mills had lost, and Kufuor came in, and everybody was so buoyant, happy. There were people who had worked from the PNDC, NDC in public offices. They were whisked away. So from 2001 to 2008, no jobs.
Yeah.
Wherever you go in Ghana, the net will catch you. Do you understand? Then the next NDC came, NDC2, same. MPP2 came, same.
So you are looking at the way they try to shift out from
people who manage assembly toilets.
Yeah.
All the way through to
washrooms.
The very top.
Yeah.
To the top. Everybody switched away. So there are people who are aggrieved, who are pained.
Yeah.
There's that level of animosity in them, not because they don't have qualifications to work, but that's how we've decided to undertake our politics. It's so grievous in such a way, even the best of human resource from all sides of the political divide are just thrown away or cast away.
Yeah. Honestly, that lack of continuity with subsequent governments it's probably even one of the banes of Ghana's existence.
Absolutely.
Because how is it that people that clearly have the expertise, have the knowledge, have worked in a space for multiple years, yet because they are not affiliated to your party, you don't put them to rights. And it's not just even government appointees, it's even technocrats who they think may be affiliated to a party. And it's not right. At this point in time, at this particular point we're going into, clearly we need some level of continuity. Even with government projects, one government will do it, one will come and say, you know what, until I commission it, it will not happen. And we'll have situations where things are unable to move. Literally, projects will go waste because one particular party does not, or one particular government did not agree or does not believe that is my project, so it doesn't matter. Saglemi housing for existence. I mean, some of these things we should find a way of easy continuity because it doesn't make sense that literally not country resources have gone into it, funds have gone into it, expertise have gone into it, and because I don't agree with it, then it goes to waste. It doesn't make any sense.
You are very right where you landed off. I mean, the concern of continuity. Unfortunately, we don't have a functioning National Development Planning Commission. So the challenge here is that if we have an institution, for instance, that is supposed to manage and run every government project or specific projects under the state, funds would have been already allocated for it. And I think if we have institutions like that,
but
irrespective
would
of...
have to cut through to go to Johnny's Bites because I think Johnny's ready to bite.
Yes.
And he's on